This first story is insane and will make you question dating again. I have cheated on literally every single boyfriend I've ever had, and I mean every one. I don't know what it is, but once I'm in a relationship for like 3 to 6 months, I just get this itch, like I love my boyfriend and everything is good, but then some new guy shows interest and I just can't help myself. My first serious boyfriend was in college and he was so good to me, paid for everything, totally loyal, talked about our future all the time. But then I met this guy at a party and we just had this crazy chemistry and I ended up sleeping with him. And then it kept happening with Jake for like 2 months until Tyler found texts on my phone and he literally cried in front of me, like full on sobbing. I felt horrible and swore I'd never do it again. Then I dated a guy for almost 2 years and I really thought he was the one. We were talking about getting engaged, but then I started a new job and my coworker was so flirty and funny and we started getting drinks after work and yeah, it happened again, multiple times. Michael never found out, but I broke up with him because the guilt was eating me alive. He was so confused and kept asking what he did wrong and I just couldn't tell him the truth. After that I had a series of talking stages and small relationships, but I could never stick to one. I would always find a new guy and they'd often overlap. I spent a lot of time on my looks, so I don't have trouble finding new guys. Also, I think that's why they fall in love with me quickly. Now I'm with Ryan and we've been together for 8 months and he's talking about moving in together and I'm already feeling that itch again. There's this guy at my gym who's been super flirty and I know exactly where this is going. I can feel it happening and I don't know how to stop it. The worst part is I've started lying about my past. Ryan asked me how many people I've slept with and I said 6 when the real number is like 23, maybe more, and he asked if I've ever cheated and I said never. But I feel like if I told him the truth, he'd leave immediately and I really do love him. I just also want to sleep with other people apparently. Like I genuinely feel terrible every time it happens. I cry about it, I promise myself I'll never do it again, and then I do. My therapist says I have intimacy issues and fear of commitment, but like, I do want to commit. I just also want the excitement of something new. Am I broken? Should I just accept that I'm not meant to be monogamous? But also I don't want to do open relationships because I hate the idea of my boyfriend being with other women. That makes me feel sick. I just want to be able to have my stable relationship and be able to hook up with other guys when I feel like it, without anyone getting hurt. I know this sounds bad, but I feel like men do this all the time and no one cares. Why is it different when women do it? If this story didn't put you off dating, then maybe the comments will, as most of them admit to do the same thing. But she's nowhere near as crazy as Valinda. Okay ladies, I need to tell you how I landed the most perfect boyfriend because it took serious work and I need to brag about it somewhere safe. About a year ago, I became completely fixated on this guy Theo. We had one mutual friend, crossed paths twice at group things, and I just knew he was exactly what I wanted. The problem was I was just another face in the crowd to him, so I got strategic. I did get lucky that he posts a lot of his life online. Not every guy does this, so results may vary. First thing I did was use my burner account to watch all of his stories. This was crucial because his stories were where all the useful information lived. His main posts were curated, but his stories were his actual life. Within about 2 weeks of watching his stories, I had mapped out his entire routine. He got coffee every weekday morning at the small independent place. I could see the logo on the cups. He went to a specific gym. He'd post the exterior sometimes when he was leaving. He hiked a particular trail most Sunday mornings, tagged the location twice. He had a regular Friday evening spot with his friends at a rooftop bar downtown. He even showed his office building exterior once in a commute video, which told me exactly what neighborhood he worked in. I also went back through his main grid, probably 3 years deep. Every tagged location got noted. The restaurants he liked, the type of places he frequented, what he wore, the aesthetic he seemed drawn to. I looked at which posts got the most engagement from women he seemed to interact with and took note of what those women looked like and what their style was. There was a definite type. Then I got to work on myself. I completely overhauled my wardrobe based on what I'd observed. His exes were all clean girl aesthetics, which I found through tagged Facebook photos. I sold a huge chunk of my clothes and rebuilt around that aesthetic. Got my hair changed, started wearing less makeup but more carefully applied. I wanted to look effortlessly put together in a way that would fit naturally into his world. Then I started showing up. The coffee shop was first. I started going every single weekday morning. I made sure I always looked good. Nothing overdone, just that effortless polished look I'd been working on. I had a book in my bag by an author I'd seen him reference in a post once. It took 3 weeks before he actually spoke to me, just a comment about the book, but I was ready for it. I had entire conversations prepared in my head for every possible direction it could go, based on what I knew about him. The hiking trail was next. I'd done enough research on it from his tagged posts to speak about it like I'd been going for years. Bought the right gear so I fit the aesthetic. Started showing up Sunday mornings. The first time I saw him there, I pretended not to notice him immediately. Let him notice me first. We started seeing each other regularly, and each conversation built on the last. We mostly talked about our mutual friends initially. I don't think he knew who I was at the coffee shop, but it clicked at the hiking spot. I signed up for his gym too, after identifying it from his story posts. Figured out his rough schedule from the times he'd post leaving. I didn't go at exactly his times every single day, because that would look weird, but I engineered enough crossovers to keep building familiarity. The rooftop bar was my best move. I knew from his Friday stories which venue it was. I started showing up with my own friends on some Friday evenings. By that point, we were familiar enough from the coffee shop and trail that he'd come over to say hi. I made sure my friends knew to never mention that I already knew things about him. 2 months in, he asked for my number. I acted perfectly surprised. Our first date was at a restaurant I'd seen him post about multiple times. I'd even gone there alone once beforehand, so I could talk about the menu like I knew it well. The whole date I was asking about things I already knew he loved, letting him talk, presenting exactly the version of myself I'd calculated he'd respond to best. I know he loves Pokemon, so I got into that. He loves football, so I got into that. Anything he mentioned once, I became an expert in. We've been together 6 months now. He constantly says how incredible it is that we have so much in common that I just seem to get him. I smile and say I felt the connection early on, which is completely true. I just did my homework first. Does he know any of this happened? Absolutely not. The burner account got deleted the week we made things official. All he knows is that we kept running into each other and fell for each other, which is exactly what I wanted him to think. Ladies, I'm not telling you to be obsessive. I'm telling you to be thorough. There's a difference. You want something, you work for it. The dream boyfriend does not fall into your lap. Sometimes you have to engineer the whole situation from scratch, and there is zero shame in that. She is absolutely insane, but I admire her dedication. Hopefully she doesn't meet the same fate as Mackenzie, who did the opposite and destroyed her own marriage. Finn just agreed to a divorce, and over the past year, I'd figured out that threatening divorce during arguments was basically a magic trick. The second I said it, Finn would completely fold. He'd go from defending himself to apologizing and trying to fix everything within minutes. Argument about him inviting his college friends to stay without asking me first. Divorce. Him buying a $400 fishing rod out of our joint account without mentioning it. Divorce. His mother made a comment about my roast chicken being dry at Sunday dinner and he didn't defend me. I absolutely brought up divorce over dry chicken and I would do it again. It just worked every single time, so why would I stop? He'd spend the next few days being extra attentive, doing things around the house, being more communicative. I thought I'd just found the most effective way to reset an argument. I was calling it my power move to my friends. 2 weeks ago we argued about him missing my work event because of some scheduling mix-up. I said it again, same as always. Maybe we should just get a divorce, Finn. He just looked at me and said, okay. I laughed because obviously he was being sarcastic. He was not being sarcastic. He went to the spare room and the next morning came downstairs and said if I felt that way, that often then maybe I was right and we should talk to a lawyer. I told him I didn't mean it, and he pulled out his phone and showed me a note he'd been keeping. Dates and context of every single time I'd said it. 15 times in 12 months. He'd been keeping track like some kind of quiet little accountant of my bad behavior, and I had absolutely no idea. The dry chicken incident was in there, in writing, on his phone. He read it back to me out loud. He said he's already spoken to a lawyer just to understand his options, and that he's not spending the rest of his life waiting for the next time I use divorce as a response to minor inconveniences. Then he went to work, and I thought, okay, he's upset. He'll calm down. This is just Finn being dramatic for once. Except then yesterday, my friend Becca mentioned casually that Finn had messaged her. I asked what about, and she got this weird look on her face and said just checking in. Just checking in. Finn has never once messaged Becca in the 4 years we've been married. I asked her directly if Finn had been messaging her a lot, and she said yes, but that it was nothing, and she didn't want to get in the middle of things. In the middle of what exactly, Becca? What are you in the middle of? I don't know if this is him venting to my friend. I don't know if this is something else. But the fact that my own friend is being cagey about it and clearly replying to him regularly is sending me into a spiral. He's never been the type to reach out to friends like that. Something is off. On top of that, my other friends are being annoyingly unsympathetic about this whole thing. One of them basically said she always thought the divorce threat habit was going to catch up with me eventually, which is such an unhelpful thing to say when I'm in crisis. And another one said that, honestly, Finn always seemed like he was just quietly tolerating things for a long time. Tolerating things. He had a great life. What exactly was he tolerating? I've asked him to go to couples therapy, and he said he'd think about it, but in this very flat tone that made my stomach drop. He's still in the spare room. He's perfectly polite. which is somehow worse than if he was yelling at me. The Becca thing is what's actually keeping me up at night though. What is my husband telling my friend? Why is she being so weird about it? And why does it feel like everyone knew this was coming except me? And he's also found a backup plan with Becca. Ruining marriages seemed to be a theme, as Tiana managed to do the exact same thing. My husband is absolutely losing his mind at me, and I don't think I did anything wrong. He has been completely addicted to his PlayStation for months now. Every single night after we put the kids to bed, he goes to the gaming room and plays for at least an hour, sometimes more. Meanwhile, I'm cleaning up from dinner, doing laundry, getting things ready for the next day, all by myself, while he's in there with his headphones on shooting people or whatever. I'm exhausted. I work too. I'm not a stay-at-home mum. We both do the dinner and bedtime routine together, but then as soon as the kids are asleep, he disappears to his games, and I'm left doing everything else. I've asked him so many times to cut back on the gaming and help me more around the house after the kids are in bed. He always says, it's just an hour, or I need time to unwind after the kids are down, but like, don't I deserve time to unwind too? When do I get an hour to myself to do whatever I want? The kids are already asleep, so it's not like he's neglecting them, but I still need help with the household stuff, and he's just checked out. So yesterday, I made a decision. I sold his PlayStation on Facebook Marketplace while he was at work. I got $200 for it, which honestly is less than he paid, but I just wanted it gone. I packed it all up, the guy came and picked it up, and I used the money to buy stuff for the kids. When my husband got home and we finished bedtime, he went straight to the gaming room like usual, and then I heard him yelling, "Where is it? Where's my PlayStation?" He came running out, absolutely furious, asking me what happened to it. I told him I sold it because he was spending too much time gaming and not enough time helping me around the house. He absolutely lost it on me. Started yelling about how I had no right to sell his property, that he paid for it with his own money, that I'm controlling and manipulative. He said I should have talked to him first instead of just getting rid of it. But I did talk to him. Multiple times. He just didn't listen. He's saying, I need to get it back or buy him a new one. He's called me a thief. He said I violated his trust and that this is a huge betrayal. He's been giving me the silent treatment for 2 days now and sleeping in the guest room. He even said he's thinking about divorce, which is absolutely insane. Divorce over a video game console. That just proves how addicted he was. He claims that I just sit on my phone and scroll while he games, but that's not how I remember it. I'm the one who's been betrayed here. I'm the one dealing with all the household responsibilities while he escapes into his games every night. I'm the one who's exhausted and burnt out. I made a decision that was best for our family, not just for him. Now he's saying he can't trust me anymore, and he's talking about keeping his money in a separate account so I can't steal from him again. Steal? I use the money for our children. How is that stealing? Maybe I should have given him one more warning first, but honestly, I was at my breaking point. Something had to change. The gaming was affecting our family, and he refused to see it. I took action to protect our marriage, even though he's acting like I'm the one who destroyed it. Yes, I sold something that belonged to him, but it was for a good reason. It's not like I sold it to be mean. I did it because I care about our family. He'll get over it eventually, and maybe he'll actually realize how much time he was wasting. The fact that he's talking about divorce over this is completely unhinged. That's a massive overreaction. It shows he cared more about that stupid console than he does about our marriage. Am I really the bad guy here? I feel like I'm being vilified for trying to save my marriage and get my husband to help out more around the house. All I wanted was for him to contribute equally to the household tasks instead of being glued to a screen every night after the kids sleep. Everyone is acting like I committed some horrible crime, but what about all the times he's left me to do everything alone while he's in the other room? What about all the nights I've cleaned the entire house by myself while he plays games? Why is no one talking about that? And now he's threatening divorce like I'm the one who ruined everything. I'm just so frustrated and hurt that he's reacting this way. Instead of understanding why I did it and agreeing to help more, he's making me out to be the villain. I'm not the villain. I'm a wife who's trying to hold this family together while he throws it away over a PlayStation. I think a divorce over the PlayStation is extreme, but I would be surprised if it was the only reason. Also, most parents have time for an hour of downtime each night. The comments, however, are very supportive of her saying that she did the right thing. What do you think? It sounds like women love ruining relationships that aren't just their own, as Tanya experienced. 7 months into the best relationship of my life, and I'm somehow losing my closest friends over it. Not because of anything Callum did, not because I disappeared on them, but because apparently being happy is offensive now. I've been with him for about 7 months, and honestly it's the healthiest relationship I've ever been in. He's kind, communicative, makes actual effort, remembers things I say, checks in on me. Nothing dramatic or complicated, just genuinely good. After years of dating guys who were emotionally unavailable or just plain awful, I finally found someone who treats me well, and I'm so happy. But here's the thing, since getting with Callum, 3 of my closest friends have completely changed toward me, and it's been slowly breaking my heart. It started subtly enough that I almost didn't notice at first. Isla started cancelling our plans more, always had a reason, but it became a pattern. When we did hang out, she'd barely ask about Callum, or if she did, it was with this kind of flat disinterest, like she was forcing herself to be polite. Then the comments started, nothing overtly horrible, just these little things. You seem different lately. I feel like we never see you anymore. You're so focused on him. I'm seeing them just as much as I always did. Then Priya started doing this thing where she'd bring up my exes unprompted. We'd be having a perfectly nice evening, and she'd say something like, "Remember when you were with Jake and you guys did this?" Or, "Your ex Marcus would have loved this place." At first I thought she was just forgetting common courtesy, but it kept happening specifically around conversations about Callum. Like she was deliberately reminding me of relationships that didn't work. The sabotage stuff started maybe 3 months in. Priya told me that she'd heard through someone that Callum had been talking to his ex and seemed really interested in her still. No source, no details, just dropped it and walked away. I was upset about it for 2 days before I actually talked to Callum, who was genuinely confused and showed me their last conversation, which was from 8 months ago and completely platonic. Complete lie, or massive exaggeration at best. Then there was a situation with Isla at my birthday dinner. Callum came along and she spent basically the whole night either ignoring him completely or making little comments. Callum was actually the one who pointed it out clearly first. We were driving home from a dinner where all 3 of them had been particularly off with him, and he just said quietly, "Your friends don't want you to be happy with me, do they?" I immediately defended them out of habit, but later that night I sat with it and realized he was completely right. Once I started actually paying attention, I couldn't unsee it. The way their faces change when I talk about him, the way Isla's jaw tightens when I mention a trip we have planned, the way Priya went quiet when I told them he'd met my parents and it went really well, the way Demi immediately started talking about her situationship whenever the conversation got too positive about my relationship, like she needed to drag it back to misery. I think they're lonely. I genuinely think that's what this is. All 3 of them are single and struggling with it in different ways, and I think watching me be happy with someone good is just too much for them right now. Last week Isla actually said to me, "Don't you ever miss just being one of the girls, just us?" And I realized in that moment what she actually wants. She wants me to be single again. She wants us all to be single together so she feels less alone in it. And that's so sad, but it's also not my problem to fix at the cost of my relationship. Callum asked me last week if I want to create some distance from them for a while, and honestly I'm considering it. Not forever, but just some breathing room while I figure out which of these friendships are actually real and which ones were only working because I was as lost as they were. Based on the comments, it sounds like this is a common thing that happens between women. I feel even worse for Tess in this next story. This is going to sound crazy, but I'm getting really uncomfortable vibes from my boyfriend's dad, and I don't know if I'm reading into things or if my gut is right. I've been with my boyfriend Jude for about 8 months, and things are great with him. His parents are divorced, and his dad Garrett lives alone about 20 minutes away. At first I thought he was just being a typical friendly dad, welcoming his son's new girlfriend, but over the past few months, it's gotten progressively worse, and I'm at the point where my stomach drops every time Jude suggests we go visit him. The staring is relentless, not normal eye contact during conversation, but this focused, burning stare that makes my entire body tense up. We'll be sitting at dinner, and I'll feel his eyes on me constantly. I look up and he's just watching me eat, watching me laugh, watching me exist, and when I catch him, he doesn't get embarrassed or look away, he holds it for another beat, like he wants me to know he's looking. It makes my skin crawl. The comments started maybe 3 months in, little things that are just barely inappropriate enough that I can't call them out without seeming paranoid. Jude really outdid himself with you. If I was 30 years younger, I'd be jealous of my son. Last month he told me I looked dangerously good in the dress I was wearing, and the way he said it wasn't fatherly at all. A few weeks ago, we were helping him move furniture, and Jude went to the garage to grab something. The second we were alone, Garrett changed, started asking if I was happy, if Jude treated me well, if I had everything I needed in this tone that felt loaded and wrong. He was standing so close I could smell his cologne, and he kept finding reasons to touch my arm or my shoulder. Just light touches, but they felt intentional. Last weekend I almost had a panic attack. We were there for dinner, and Jude's phone died so he went upstairs to charge it. I was trapped in the kitchen with Garrett, and he made a comment about how I looked particularly nice tonight, and asked if I dressed up specifically for him. I tried to laugh it off, but he was literally standing between me and the doorway and said, "Well, I'm glad you're here either way," in this low voice. My heart was pounding. The second Jude came back downstairs, Garrett switched immediately back to normal dad mode, like flipping a switch. I told Jude in the car. I was shaking while I said it. Told him his dad makes me deeply uncomfortable, that he stares at me constantly, that he makes weird sexual comments. Jude got defensive immediately. Said his dad is just socially awkward, that I'm probably misinterpreting friendliness. He basically made me feel insane for even bringing it up. But I know what I'm feeling. I genuinely believe if Garrett and I were left alone together for more than 5 minutes, he would make an actual move. Not violently, but in a testing boundaries way. A hand somewhere it shouldn't be. A comment that fully crosses the line. An attempt at something. I can feel it building every single time we're there. I've started making up excuses to avoid going. Made up plans twice last month. Faked being sick once. Jude is noticing and asking why I don't want to see his dad anymore, and I don't know what to say because he already didn't believe me the first time. The thought of going back there makes me want to cry. I get anxious the entire day before we're supposed to visit. I feel like I'm going insane, but my body is screaming at me that something is very wrong. She definitely needs to hold her ground and not go over to that house anymore. The comments are all supportive of her and saying the same thing. Kiara has a completely different problem, as she regrets divorcing her husband and hates his new girlfriend. I don't even know where to start, ladies, but I'm absolutely devastated and furious and just done with everything. I filed for divorce 3 years ago because honestly Ryan was boring me to death. He always wanted to stay home and watch movies instead of going out. I felt like I was dying inside. My therapist at the time said I needed to honor my authentic self and not dim my light for anyone, so I left. I thought I was going to have this amazing single life, date exciting men, and finally live. Well, that didn't happen. The dating apps are a nightmare. Every guy just wants hookups or is a complete loser still living with his parents at 35. Meanwhile, I check Ryan's sister's Instagram. She still follows me and posts everything, and Ryan looks so happy. It makes me sick. He's with this girl now, and she is genuinely one of the most unfortunate looking people I've ever seen. I'm not trying to be mean, but she has like no chin, and her hair is this mousy brown color that just screams I've given up. She dresses like a librarian from the 1950s. Here's the thing that's making me absolutely lose my mind though. Ryan just got this job offer. He's going to be the creative director at some fancy advertising agency in New York. We talked about moving to New York literally our entire marriage. I had Pinterest boards, I had researched neighborhoods, I had picked out our dream house in Ballard, and now he's going to live there with her and her non-existent chin. I've been trying to reach out to him to just talk like adults, but he's got me blocked everywhere. Phone, all social media, he even blocked my email address. Who does that? His friends won't pass along messages. His sister says she can't get involved, which is such a cop-out because she literally told me last month that Amber is boring at family dinners and doesn't drink wine, which is like red flag much. So here's what I'm thinking. My college roommate lives in New York and has been begging me to visit. I'm going to go stay with her for 2 weeks, and I did some digging. Okay, fine. I paid for one of those people finder websites, and I know what neighborhood Ryan's moving to. He basically stole my entire life plan and is living it with someone who doesn't even deserve it. His girlfriend apparently has some kind of anxiety about flying and won't move out there until December, which means Ryan's going to be alone in New York for 3 months. That's my window. I'm going to accidentally run into him at the coffee shop I know he'll go to. He's obsessed with this one specific type of cortado, and there's only 2 places in New York that make it right. Yes, I researched. I've been working out like crazy. I'm getting hair extensions. I'm basically going to look better than I ever did when we were married. The sister mentioned that Amber gets really jealous whenever Ryan's past comes up, and they had a huge fight last month because he still has our wedding photo album in storage. She's clearly insecure, which means she knows she's not good enough for him. If I can just get him alone, remind him what actual chemistry feels like, show him that I've changed and grown, I know he'll see that leaving was the mistake. We're supposed to be in New York together, not him and some plain Jane who probably doesn't even know how to have fun. Yes, I know too much about their lives. I basically paid his sister off by taking her out to lunch many times secretly. He has no idea, but it's fine because his sister likes me more anyway. This woman is completely unhinged, and I guarantee he's going to freak out in a bad way if he runs into her in New York. But that's not even the craziest post I read today, as Meg takes that by a mile. My marriage is falling apart, and I genuinely don't understand why he won't just work with me on this because I feel like I've been more than reasonable about the whole situation. 2 months ago, my husband Grayson found out I'd been seeing someone else. Another guy I met through work. It went on for about 3 months before Grayson found out through some texts on my phone. I know that wasn't great, but I want to be clear that our marriage had been in a really stagnant place for a while, and I was feeling unfulfilled, so this didn't just happen out of nowhere. When he confronted me about it, I immediately tried to fix things. I didn't just deny it or run away. I sat down with him and told him I wanted to save our marriage, and I had some ideas for how we could make things better for both of us. First, I suggested we bring another woman into the bedroom. I figured this would be something Grayson would be excited about, since men are always talking about that kind of thing. I thought it would spice things up, make him feel like he was getting something exciting out of this, and honestly, I was willing to do that for him because I love him and I wanted to fix us. I thought it was a really generous offer on my part. He said no. He actually seemed almost offended, which I genuinely did not see coming. I thought most men would jump at that offer, so his reaction confused me a lot. Then I suggested we just open the marriage completely. I told him it could work really well for both of us, that we could set boundaries and rules, that plenty of couples do it successfully. I said I'd already kind of been doing it anyway, so it seemed like a natural transition. That made things significantly worse. He got really cold and said something like, "You already opened it without asking me, and now you want my permission after the fact," which I thought was unfair because I was trying to be transparent now. He's been sleeping in the spare room for 6 weeks now. He's talking to a divorce lawyer. He barely speaks to me, and when he does, it's purely logistical, like who's paying which bill, or when he's picking up the dog from the vet. I don't understand why he won't at least try the open marriage idea. It works for so many couples, and honestly, it would solve everything. He could date other women, I could continue what I was doing, we keep the life we've built together. Nobody has to blow up a marriage over this. It seems so logical to me, and he won't even consider it. Our marriage was entirely perfect, apart from this small hiccup. The three-way thing still baffles me too. I've brought it up twice more since the initial conversation, and he keeps saying no. He said, "I don't want a three-way, I want a wife who doesn't cheat on me," which honestly felt like a really unfair dig, because it was partly his fault. My friends are split on this. Some of them think Grayson is being rigid and punishing me way longer than necessary for one mistake. Others are being annoyingly unsympathetic about the whole thing. My mom doesn't know, and I don't plan on telling her. The thing is, Grayson and I have been together for 6 years, married for 3. We have a house together, a dog, mutual friends, a whole life. Throwing all of that away over something that a lot of couples actually manage to work through seems extreme to me. I also want to be honest. The guy I was seeing on the side, I kind of faded him out since everything blew up, so I'm not even seeing anyone else right now. Grayson should take that into account. I chose him, and yes, I know I should have talked to him first about my needs and feelings instead of just going outside the marriage. I get that, but we can't change what happened, and I feel like I'm being punished indefinitely for something that I've already acknowledged was wrong. How long is he supposed to stay angry? I just want my husband back, and I don't know how to get through to him. He won't go to couples counseling. He won't have a real conversation with me. He just shuts down every time I bring anything up. I feel completely powerless here. What can I do to make him see that throwing away 6 years is worse than just working through this? How do I get him to at least try the open marriage idea? Is there anything I can say to make him understand that I'm serious about saving this? Meg is delusional, but the comments even more so. One of them even thought she had some great ideas. She's not the only one struggling to find a new man, as Luna is saying no man is ever approaching her. Can someone please explain to me where exactly I'm supposed to meet a decent man, because I'm genuinely at a loss right now. I'm 32 and I want to start a family. Not in a panicked, desperate way, but in a genuine, I'm ready for this next chapter kind of way. I have my life together, good job, my own place, I'm social, I have hobbies. On paper, I should not be struggling this much. My biggest frustration is that men just never approach me in normal, everyday situations. Like I'll be at a coffee shop or a bookstore or a farmer's market and nothing. I even put myself in those situations on purpose. I'm not walking around with headphones in or looking at my phone constantly. I'm open and approachable, or at least I think I am. But men just don't approach women in public anymore, and it's genuinely confusing, because where did that go? My friends kept telling me I needed to make the first move, since men are apparently terrified of approaching women these days. So a few months ago I actually did it. There was this guy who's always walking at my park, totally my type, seemed normal. After weeks of convincing myself, I finally went up to him and just said I thought he seemed really interesting and asked if he'd want to get coffee sometime. He was so nice about it. He smiled and said he was actually seeing someone, but that it was really brave of me to come up, and he hoped I found what I was looking for. Genuinely one of the kindest rejections possible, but I wanted to disappear into the floor. I was red in the face for the rest of the day, and I kept replaying it for weeks afterward. I'm never doing that again. I know that's probably not the right attitude, but I just can't. The vulnerability of putting yourself out there and getting shot down even kindly is something I'm not built for apparently. I have so much respect for men who do that constantly because it's awful. So approaching is out. Dating apps are basically useless in my experience. I've been on Hinge and Bumble for 2 years, and the quality is just not there. I go on maybe 1 or 2 decent dates a month, and they never go anywhere. Either the guy isn't what his profile suggested, or there's just no chemistry in person, or they're clearly just looking for something casual. I've paid for premium subscriptions. I've had friends review my profile. I've rewritten my bio probably 6 times. Nothing is working. The ironic thing is, I get plenty of attention when I go out to bars and clubs with my friends on weekends. Guys come up to me all night, ask for my number, want to buy me drinks. But those aren't the guys I want to build a life with. Those are Saturday night guys, not Sunday morning guys, if you know what I mean. I'm not going to meet my future husband at a club, and even if I did, I wouldn't trust it. So let me recap my options. Apparently approach men myself, which was humiliating. Dating apps, which are a wasteland. Clubs and bars, which is not the right environment. Getting approached organically in public, which apparently never happens. What am I missing? Where's the fourth option? I go to the gym regularly, I have a book club, I go to the farmer's market every weekend, I grab coffee at the same place most mornings. I put myself in situations where I should theoretically be running into eligible men, but it never translates into anything real. I don't know if I'm giving off the wrong energy or if I'm just in the wrong places. I'm not someone who panics about age, but I am aware of the reality of wanting a family. I'd like to meet someone, actually date properly for a year or two, then think about kids. That timeline requires me to actually meet someone fairly soon. The clock isn't deafening yet, but I can hear it ticking in the background. Does anyone actually have real practical advice? Not just, it'll happen when you least expect it, because that's not advice, that's just something people say to fill silence. I need actual options I haven't considered, because I feel like I've exhausted the obvious ones. I do hope she finds someone, but can't help but think 2 years on a dating app and finding nothing as a woman might be her own fault. The comments are lovely and give genuine advice though, which is nice to see. Michelle has a completely different approach to getting a man, and it really got the other women in the comments worked up. I know this is probably going to be controversial in this group, but I genuinely want to share what turned my marriage around, because 2 years ago I was seriously considering divorce, and now I'm happier than I've ever been. Mine and Declan's marriage had been pretty rough, and we were constantly bickering. There was this underlying tension in everything. We barely spent quality time together, and when we did, it always seemed to end in an argument. He was stressed and withdrawn, I was resentful and combative. We were basically just coexisting, and it was miserable. I tried talking about it, suggesting couples therapy. Everything seemed to make it worse. I decided to completely change my approach. Not because anyone told me to, but because I realized that the way I was showing up in my marriage was making everything harder. So I started making small changes, and the results honestly blew my mind. The first thing I changed was how I spoke to him. I stopped being sharp and clipped when I was frustrated and started genuinely softening my tone. When he came home from work, instead of immediately launching into complaints about my day or things that needed to be fixed around the house, I started just greeting him warmly, asking how his day was, and actually listening to the answer. I started cooking proper meals again. Not every night, but most nights. I'd ask him earlier in the day what he fancied and actually make it from scratch. He'd come home to the smell of food cooking, and you could physically see him decompress the second he walked through the door. Sunday mornings, I started making big breakfasts, the kind we used to have when we first started dating. Eggs, bacon, fresh coffee, the works. He started hanging around the kitchen chatting while I cooked instead of disappearing to watch TV. I took over the laundry completely without making it a point of contention. I'd fold his clothes the way he likes them, iron his work shirts, make sure everything was put away properly. Same with keeping the house tidier generally. I stopped letting dishes pile up and started staying on top of things so the house felt calm and ordered when he got home rather than chaotic. I started getting properly dressed even on days at home instead of being in sweats all day. I made more effort with how I looked generally. Nothing extreme, just taking care of myself and not being completely disheveled when he got home from a long day. The change in him has been remarkable. Within a few weeks, he was in visibly better moods. He started coming home earlier instead of finding reasons to stay late at work. He'd bring me flowers randomly, something he hadn't done in years. He started suggesting we do things together on weekends. The tension that had been sitting between us just slowly dissolved. Then he landed a new job. Way better company, significant pay increase, much better hours. He said the interview process felt different this time, that he walked in with more confidence and clarity than he'd had in years. I honestly think when things are settled and happy at home, it genuinely affects how men perform everywhere else. He seems lighter. Now we're having conversations we haven't had in years. Actual meaningful ones about our future, about what we want, about children. We've been talking about whether it would be possible for me to stay home when we eventually have young children. A year ago, that conversation would have turned into an argument. Now we're just dreaming together and figuring out if the numbers could work. I want to be clear because I know how this sounds. I'm not saying women should be doormats or that I do everything and he does nothing. Declan helps with plenty of things. I'm not saying the way I was before was wrong from some moral standpoint. I'm just saying that the energy I was bringing into my home was making my marriage harder, and when I changed that energy, everything shifted. The return I got on these small changes was enormous. I already know this is going to go over so many heads. It's all about that energy. I know you want the life I have now, but you won't be willing to put in the work for it. To no surprise, the comments completely against her and telling her she's embarrassing. I can't tell if this post was made specifically to rile these women up or if she genuinely lived this experience. Thanks for watching. Hit subscribe because I've got plenty more stories to come. I'll try upload every week if people are enjoying the videos.